Chapter 4 Fragment of Bliss. Hello and welcome, my name is Lynx, and we continue with driver Takeshiba, and I think we can safely assume we are about to go on another drive, and and by that I mean Takeshiba and his boss, Lady Hinode, will have to once again escape from an assassin. Because that's how it goes. Let us continue. The Ica Storm was driving through the countryside. In case you are new around this series, Ica Storm is their car. Actually, now that I think about it, because I haven't looked, is Ica Storm an actual car? Come on, browser. Oh, don't do this to me. It had to mess everything up. Ica Storm. Car? No. I had to check, okay? I had to. It was Lady Hinode who requested a special route home, even though it would take longer this way, right? I mean, sometimes it's fine. Sometimes that's what you need. The road wasn't fully paved, but the price for the slower drive was a sense of peace. Oh. Wow. I was mentioning previously, like, the cars, that basically those are toys, I think. I've mentioned, like, the Lego being used, or the other cheaper version. And now we literally see the usage of some sort of car. Okay, some sort of material, basically. I was about to say carpet, but that's not the carpet for sure. Dude. Indie devs, learn from ITV projects. You need to learn from this guy. Dude. Don't use, you know, shitty AI. Don't make your game a slop. Make something like that. Use like everyday props. If you have to. This is wild. Anyway. She didn't mind the car rocking a bit more than usual. And even caught her thinking they should be doing this more often. Taking roads like these. Alright, I would not say that. I don't mind taking a longer road, quiet road, but I want the road to at least be properly done, okay? Which in Poland is also a rarity, considering how many holes you will find in every flipping road. I don't know, man. It's like they do roads shitty quality on purpose. Even for, like, that's something you should literally have in good condition. Anywho. Where she could be enjoying the cold inside of the car. But she didn't want to take Takeshiba's time unnecessarily or to her own advantage. Therefore, she resolved to only suggest the longer routes occasionally. The words of Grenadine Pin were still with her in many ways, and she got agitated. That's obviously, again, in case you haven't watched the previous videos, that was one of the assassins. She was not using him. She wasn't. That would be so awful of her. And she knew she couldn't be like that to him. Are you? She began speaking to Takeshiba-kun, not having thought out what to say. In some way she wanted to ask him or tell him. But as she was saying those words, she realized she wouldn't be able to articulate what was in her heart. Suddenly a phone, and that's a sign that here we go again. Here we go again. Kinda funny how assassins have a way to always call you. And the phone that rang it seemed like it was such a lucky intervention. Until...
Yes. Good morning, Lady Hinode. I pursue?
Yes. Who am I speaking to?
Oh, poor mothers. I'm Edward Mackinshot, Royal Marksman. The etiquette of life, we can dream of dignified death.
It's sort of similar car to yours. And what business do you have with me? She asked, her voice breaking somewhat.
Oh, but of course you know that, dear lady.
Lady Hinode remained silent.
Silence. It's all right with me too, madame. I'm afraid I'm going to have to end your life. Would you care to stop and face this fate without resistance?
He said with a genuine tone.
Oh, of course, in case there were any doubts, if you comply, it will most surely save the life of the driver. I would much prefer this arrangement.
He's waiting.
You're still silent, but I can really not interest you in my offer. I only get paid for you, and it would be a shame for the boy who seems to be the latest word in our circles.
He isn't a boy, she said almost inaudibly. It didn't reach Takeshiba-kun as he was already looking around intently. Then finally he spotted the car. It was Blackmoor Industries Avenger MK2. That makes it sound like Gundam. Designed to be as good off the road as on it. The Avenger MK2 is the evolution of the rugged performance car. Good for any occasion. Are you planning to sell me that? I would not want a car like that for. I don't know, man. I don't like those huge cars, to be honest. What's the point? Like, half of the population, more than half of the population that owns huge-ass cars. You don't need those. You literally don't need those. Especially people who can't even drive them. Jesus Christ. And by that, I mean who can't even properly park them. Oh my god, so many people like that. And the most ridiculous part is having such a car in a city. On the outskirts, I kind of understand, especially if you need it to basically drive on really crappy quality roads. So you need something taller, basically. But in the city, you don't need those freaking tanks, basically. Ridiculous. Anyway.
Ah, of course, talking about age isn't proper. Still, if he matters to you...
Mackinshot continued, oblivious to being spotted.
Would be the most noble sacrifice to offer him alive.
You would...
Your doubts are misplaced, Lady Hinode. Of course, I'm a man of my word. I'm bound by it forever. You're thinking. Good. Let me explain your position.
The Avenger suddenly appeared right behind them. It's the 4-on-4 drive system. 4x4, but whatever. Was specifically developed to handle terrain like this. Isn't our 4-on-4? By 4, whatever. Meanwhile, the Aka Storm, while it could drive on loose surfaces, was struggling for a proper grip. Oh. Yeah, it's not that. Yeah, it must have Well, it must have either front or back drive, I guess. When the hill appeared on the left, Takeshiba swerved in that direction, cutting through shrubbery to reach a path that would allow them to shake the pursuing car. Lady Hinode gripped the seat and looked around. The Avenger MK2 seemed to be gone. The dense foliage and focus on escaping didn't allow her to see absolutely everything around them, but could this be a quick escape? Perhaps the assassin had underestimated them. Or maybe he has run into some problems pursuing them. It could also be that. He's that good. But her thoughts were disrupted when at a stroke the Avenger MK2 appeared once again. He's basically not using the road. Got it. It had driven over the crest of the hill, separating the main road from the path they were on. You! She was about to scream, but a hard impact cut everything she wanted to say like a guillotine. The downhill momentum of the Avenger was unstoppable. She saw Takeshiba violently turn the wheel and pressing a blue button on the dashboard when it got even worse. The MK2 of McInshot succeeded in pressing itself underneath them, lifting the aircraft up, reducing the little grip they had. Lady Hinode was thrown sideways so violently she let out a scream of pain. Ah! She instinctively stretched her arms towards the roof, bracing for the impact of being flipped over. Towards there. Okay, I don't know how I feel about that, but all in all, I wouldn't know how to react in such a situation while inside of the car anyway, so yeah. That 3 she saw just a second ago. The man, McInshot, he was going to push them right into it. Upside down. It was the suddenly a sound as if a soft explosion could be heard. A quick jolt went through the car as Lady Hinode was pushed back into the seat again. And her sense of orientation made her feel they were going back into a level position? It was Takeshiba. The blue button, the boost overdrive pressed at the exact right time, propelled them out of harm's way and prevented headward McInshot from flipping them. It was the one and only such boost they had, but if Takeshiba would not have used it, they would already be McInshot's prey. I mean, technically they are prey, but like, they are a prey that has not been caught or eliminated. The overdrive continued and would do so until depleted. There was no stopping it once engaged. Takeshiba knew the adverse effects it had on the engine, and it would almost certainly need to be replaced after today if they would make it back. They had in fact installed the system only a few weeks ago. After some tests, Dimensions dedicated training grounds, which included a driving course. Damn. Lady Hinode was often offered security upgrades of various sorts, but for the car she only ever wanted to hear if Takeshiba liked it. I mean, correct approach. It is technically, you know, the driver who's supposed to be using all this stuff, so yeah. And if he did, she would buy anything. The overdrive, still fully active, was carrying them very quickly out of the sight of the Avenger MK2. The combination of the dirt road and an unstoppable boost demanded fine, calm inputs to avoid trees, rocks, and other obstacles. Rather than driving the car, Takeshiba was now merely guiding it. When at last the boost subsidized on its own, Takeshiba immediately turned left of the main road again. This time he went off the path entirely. McInshot lost visual contact with them, and seeing what was happening and how carefully her driver seemed to move, it became clear to Lady Hinode. He was going to hide. As they passed a waterfall, another one. Yeah, we've been by one yesterday. There appeared a place where they could find safety. Under the falling water in a cave unseen by their pursuer. Takeshiba switched to silent mode and the secondary electric engine moved the car quietly into the cave. Electric engine. Ew. He turned off the car completely and rested his hands on the top of the steering wheel. He turned off the car completely and rested his hands on the top of the steering wheel. Everything suddenly became completely still. Only the water falling and leaves of the trees rustling could be heard. Lady Hinode looked around the dark cave. There was an opening from which she could see the back of the waterfall. Light was shimmering and illuminating that part of the cave, while the front was open but somewhat shielded by bushes. They would be safe here, or would they? All that needed was to wait. Edward McKeon drove past the waterfall, but was immediately alerted by his senses. Just like when he was hunting with his father as a young lad, there was a certain feeling that the prey is near. He couldn't explain it, but it never failed him. And he learned to trust it unconditionally. He turned the car around and drove slowly to examine the waterfall. Inside the Ica storm, Lady Hinode looked at Takeshiba-kun. The silence and the sounds of nature around her. It didn't matter that a killer was hunting them. She was here, now, with Lady Hinode. I feel... Takeshiba-kun said, turning her, as if God she flashed. But he will find us. Lady Hinode nodded, letting him know she understood. This was no respite. And at once she got angry at herself for the thoughts just before. How could she, when he's here, protecting her with every atom of his being?
I must admit, Lady Hinode, you treat your servants well. They're certainly willing to do anything for you.
McKeon's voice was suddenly heard again through the speakers. He was confident they were hiding somewhere close, as he continued to slowly examine the waterfall's surroundings.
Takeshiba-kun is a free man, Mr. McKeon. Why do you insult him at me like this?
Lady Hinode said with conviction. She has rarely felt this kind of confidence. McKeon may have used polite words, but he was rude nonetheless.
I don't have servants,
she added.
Of course, not strictly a servant, but servant in spirit, isn't he? At least according to what I've read about him from the materials my predecessors left. So whether by birth or by taking the poor soul and letting him stay in exchange for services. How can you even utter such words? Stop at once.
Lady Hinode almost jumped, her lips trembling. She looked at Takeshiba-kun with pleading eyes. McKeon, however, continued his argumentation.
Of course you think that he is your equal, of course. You're obviously, perhaps, blinded by something. Let me ask you, would you marry the boy?
Lady Hinode let out a shriek, completely stunned by the question. Her face instantly flushed red, and it felt as though she was unable to say a word.
I mean, of course. Hypothetically, the answer is no, am I right?
McKeon continued as he explored the waterfall further.
Well, I should not be putting you in an awkward position. I don't need to say it. I know what the answer is. How can you possibly know?
Lady Hinode finally burst out in an accusatory tone. There was such fire in her eyes that Takeshiba could feel the entire interior of the car somehow change. As if it wasn't even her. He has never seen her like this, in this state.
Well, of course you like to think yourself better. Better by thinking you are above such things, and that only your feelings matter. But of course... What? Of course what?
Lady Hinode's voice was trembling at the verge of tears.
Well, purely as a photo experiment, I'm confident that even if you had any feelings for someone like him, you'd never tell him, let alone marry him, simply because... Because even admit it, you would be as... Don't say one word, you vile creature! You come to kill me and that is not enough for you? Must you also insult, speculate, and spew poison with every word? Who do you know? What can you possibly know from some papers you have on us? Tell me. Tell me, you murderer. You can't because you nothing. Nothing, do you hear me?
Lady Hinode collapsed into the seat with exhaustion.
Then,
McIntosh's tone suddenly changed.
say it. Say to his face that you would marry him. He who is your... Yes, are you happy now, you monster?
Lady Hinode said, unable to hold her head up anymore and about to faint. All the tension was now vanishing from the body. Still weak from the fever a few days ago, the strain exhausted her completely.
Of course you would say that. Ironic, isn't it? That by doing what you think was a noble deed, you have sealed the fate of those that we are by our nature sworn to protect.
He said to the trembling lady, but her attention was caught by the realization that they were moving. Takeshiba set the car up to almost glide over the terrain, and at the slow speed with which he was leaving their hideaway, the movement was almost imperceptible if one was not looking outside the window. Lady Hinode immediately knew that Takeshiba's words had come true. But perhaps they still could get away. Escape. This man. The situation. But as they pulled away from their hiding spot, a red flash appeared in the rear view mirror as the Avenger's hood was hit by the sun's ray. They only had a second or two before he would notice them. And he did. A deep rumbling sound was heard, the unmistakable sign of the Avenger Mk2 accelerating. And as much as Takeshiba tried, the advantage the Crimson car had was insurmountable. Within seconds, he was already behind them. Takeshiba had no more overdrive and very few other options. The Avenger was now toying with them, bumping the back of them on a whim, like a predator, certain of its triumph. And there was nothing they could do. Lady Hinode's eyes were tearing up with every hit they took. This would be a slow end. And it seemed that Takeshiba knew it. He was making no attempts to evade, no special maneuvers, and he didn't even make adjustments to the car's mode like he always did when he had a plan. They were driving past the trees, rocks, and narrow parts of the dirt road, any one of which would be fatal for them were the Ica storm to hit them. By some miracle, Takeshiba was able to just clear those obstacles, even when pushed by the powerful Avenger. Although it all seemed to be just a matter of time. This was nothing one could keep up forever. And McIntosh was already upping his attacks, hitting and pushing them from behind, making evasion harder and harder with each one. As they came towards a narrow part of the road, walls and rocks alongside both sides, McIntosh did not hesitate. With double the force, he hit them, destabilizing the Ica storm in such a way it started to drift. And even as Takeshiba succeeded in righting the car somewhat, another attack from the side followed, negating the driver's efforts. The Avenger Mk2 was now pushing the back of the Ica storm directly into a spiky rock. The white car was still drifting, all four wheels spinning, and also had some residual forward momentum. But McIntosh stepped on the gas as to seal their fate. This was his shot. But as he felt his car surge forward, he realized the momentum that Ica storm had, and that Takeshiba still kept the car moving sideways on its own power. And his push only partially forced it towards the wall. Takeshiba in fact still had enough control over his car. And if he were to accelerate his Ica storm now... Adios. With a heavy crash, the Avenger Mk2 hit the sharp rock, destroying the entire front, including the engine. McIntosh was incapacitated. Takeshiba's car hit the wall as it slipped away, but it was an unavoidable consequence of the maneuver. The Ica storm was still running and would get them home. Lady Hinode realized what had happened and broke down in tears in her seat, looking at her driver. Thoughts raced through her mind, but calmness was swiftly coming back to her. Wiping off her tears, she watched Takeshiba-kun setting the car switches to their regular position. Still,
Takeshiba-kun.
Lady Hinode said after they were well out of harm's way.
You don't think that I am mean to you or bad to you?
She asked, and Takeshiba just shook his head slowly, almost in shock by the question. That thought would never cross his mind. Never. Lady Hinode smiled, and with relief that somehow made her unutterably beautiful to him, sunk back in her seat. Takeshiba turned around to face the road and continued in silence. He was trying to understand why she would even ask such a thing. But he came up with nothing. Those thoughts just didn't make sense to him. And maybe they didn't make sense to Lady Hinode either. And she just wanted to ask him if he feels the same way. They both remained silent until the Aika storm arrived at the Hinode estate. And that's where chapter 4 comes to an end. And also this video. We shall continue tomorrow. And experience another assassination, I guess. Hopefully successfully avoided as well. Just like today. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. For now, as always, hope you enjoyed. And if you did, consider liking the video. And of course, if you're new around, consider subscribing. There will be more videos and more games. That's right. With all of that being said, I wish you a fantastic day. And hopefully I'll see you tomorrow too. Bye bye.